in Spinagle here today at South Middle School. Join me today as we learn about some of the teachers here at the home of the Trojans on this edition of Be the Difference, West Virginia. We're here with Charles Wilson. He teaches science here at South Middle. Charles, how are you?
Good.
Thank you. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from Ohio. I have a son, Levi. He's 21. My wife is Mary Margaret, and I met her in 1999 on the internet. So from that, you might guess that I'm a big proponent of technology. It's worked out well for both of us. So anyway, I've been teaching since 1999, teaching since 1989, and full-time since 1999, so a total of about 24 years. In Ohio, I taught about 20 years of biology, high school anatomy, general science, and one computer class. And then I moved here to Martinsburg in 2010 and started teaching here at South Middle.
So what made you decide to become a teacher?
Well, actually, teaching wasn't my first choice. I got my undergraduate degree in microbiology and medical technology, and getting ready to start going out for work. And a classmate of mine, a year ahead, told me that he had thought things through, and if it didn't work out for him, he didn't like working in microbiology or industry, that he would come back to school and get a certificate to teach. And I thought that was the oddest thing to think of. Why would anybody do that? And it turns out that that's what we both did. We worked in different areas of industry, but I worked several jobs, and it wasn't really what I enjoyed. I was doing quality control and had a lot of responsibility, but I didn't have any authority to make sure that the quality was what it was supposed to be, and then it was my fault when it didn't work. So I thought, well, I'll try teaching. It was worth a shot. I'm still young. I can change careers. I got to Glenville State, got my education, my certificate, and then it's just been the best thing ever to happen to me. Best career move I could have made. It's a really good fit.
So what do you enjoy most about teaching science to middle schoolers?
Because when you see them catch on to an idea and their eyes light up, or they scrunch their eyebrows, and I say, what? That doesn't make sense, because it's something outside of their usual thought pattern. And so that's really good. The middle school student is starting to gain their own independence and starting perhaps to begin to rebel a little bit. And I remember how I was in school, and why do we have to do this? And of course I asked those questions, and I knew they're coming, so I have an answer for them. You're not sure what you're going to do for a career yet, are you? Well, no, not really. Well, me neither. I wasn't either at your age. In fact, I wasn't when I was 24. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do the rest of my life. So we're trying to prepare you for everything that might come at you, and so that you're ready to jump right in when it comes your turn.
Tell me about an activity or a lesson that you've done with your students that's really gotten them excited about science or learning in general.
Well, anytime you teach anything to do with chemistry, whether it's an explosion or flashes or color changes, that really gets their attention, because they want to know how that works, and of course they want to do it themselves. I like teaching about genetics. We're teaching about some anatomy right now, and that will generally spark some student interest. It's just natural that a student is curious about how their own body works, and how did I get the way I am.
Activities that you're involved in the community, or here at South, that engages students or engage the community outside of the classroom?
Well, just this year, another teacher that works here at South, Mrs. Willa Fentus, and I started a community garden down in our neighborhood. And several of the students we have here at South live in that neighborhood. We haven't gotten any of them involved in the garden having their own plot yet, although we're hopeful that that will happen. There's a few students that have come by and helped us pull some rocks or some weeds or something, and they're ready to take a basket full of cucumbers or something back to the house. We even grew some watermelons this year, and they were just tickled to death to get those. So that's something. I enjoy doing the gardening thing anyway. We've got a little plot outside my window. I have a few tomato plants there in the summer and encourage the kids to stop by and pick on them. And each spring I try to give every student their own tomato plant to take home. I said, if you don't like tomatoes, give it to your neighbor or your grandma or something. They'll appreciate getting it. And just about all of them will take a plant, and then they come back in the fall and say, Mr. Wilson, my tomato plant was this tall, and now it's this tall, and I had a girl the other day come and say, I'm still picking tomatoes from it.
Wow.
And I said, I'd like a picture of that here in December. I would really like to see that. So Boy Scout groups, when they've had a scout that needs help with some studies on their merit badges or something like that, I've got one in the neighborhood trying to get me to do some more of that right now. Of course, they like it when you come to their games or the concerts. They like to see that you're interested in what they're doing.
Why is it so important to make sure that we keep science within our school curriculum, or how does science play a role in improving the test scores or improving student skills in math and reading?
You know, the biggest push on all of our testing is reading and math. But to be a good scientist, you have to be reading the literature. To be a good student, you have to be able to read. I try to get my students the point across to them that it doesn't matter what you read. If you read comic books, you're going to improve your vocabulary. That's going to improve your reading ability. That's going to improve your scores in every class. So I try to include and encourage reading in here. Of course, you're used to it probably. This is science class. Why are we doing math? And my stock answer is, well, mathematics is the language of science. If you can't measure it, if you can't count it, it's not science. So I look at science as having, it's got input from every subject area.
Misconception in the public's eye that you wish you could clear up about teaching or the education profession?
I moved here. I took a pretty good pay cut to come here. You know, the stereotype is, well, teachers pull out money out of their own pocket, and you know, they're not in it for the money. Well, I think that's really true about the majority of people in the profession. So it's not about the pay for me. You know, I want to make good citizens. I want to have good citizens. It's easy for us to be cynical about the way things are. And as Louis L'Amour said, a cynic is a sentimentalist under the skin. I think no matter how much we might groan and complain about things, deep down we really all care, and care deeply about the students and about doing a good job.
We're here with Katie Miller. She teaches math here at South Middle School. Katie, how are you?
Hi, Erin. I'm great, thank you.
So tell me a little about yourself.
Well, my name is Katie Miller. I'm from Alexandria, Virginia, and I have a bachelor's and master's degree from West Virginia University, and I am married with 2 dogs.
How long have you been teaching?
I started teaching as a permanent substitute in 2007, so I have been in the profession for 6 years now.
So what made you decide to become a teacher?
Well, there was a couple things, but the main thing that stands out in my mind is I have an older sister. She is 12 years older than I am, and when I was in middle school, she was an elementary school teacher, and her elementary school was right across the street. So I would walk across the street and help her out in her elementary classroom, and I think that's what ultimately inspired me, just seeing her interact with the kids.
Math here at South. What's your favorite thing about teaching math?
Well, I think that kids there's a lot of students that dread math. They will come into my classroom in the beginning of the year with this negative conception about the subject, and I really like to prove them otherwise. In 6th grade, they get an exposure to all different types of math, whether it be algebra, geometry, or statistics. And just because they don't like one topic or they think they're bad at one topic doesn't mean that they're going to be bad at everything. Show them that there's more than one way to do things, and just because they don't get it one way doesn't mean that there's not another way that works better for them. For example, with multiplication, you know, they learned how to do it with partial product or lattice or the traditional method. So they need to find the way that works best for them.
Tell me about some of the lessons or the activities you do in your math class to get your students excited about learning.
Well, I really try to find creative ways to implement the curriculum. So instead of lecturing on a daily basis, we play games, we've played relay games, we played Jeopardy to review for tests. I like to incorporate pop culture. We'll listen to rap songs from Vocabulary about math, or watch videos on Braid Pop or study jams. But I just try any method to keep them interested and engaged in the content. I love Jeopardy. I think it's a great way, and breaking them into teams and having them work collaboratively really gets them engaged, and it's an excellent way to review for a test. But I also do a relay game where I put them in groups and everyone has to solve a problem before they can move on to the next one, and they seem to really enjoy that healthy competition.
What are some experiences that you had as a student yourself that have influenced the type of teacher that you've become?
Well, I've had some influential teachers and some not so influential teachers in my past, and the ones that are more memorable to me are the ones that showed me how much they cared about me as an individual. And I think there's a quote that comes to mind: no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So I try to incorporate that into my own teaching style and into my own classroom.
Before you taught at South, you were teaching in the elementary grades. So how has that background, working with younger students, helped prepare you to teach the middle school students?
Well, I think it was incredibly beneficial, in particular in 6th grade, because I know the transition that they experience from intermediate school to middle school, and I try to ease that transition and make it as smooth as possible for my students. Also, I taught 5th grade math, so I know what they should have learned in 5th grade, and I also know some of the strategies and methods that they learned with everyday math, so I try to incorporate those into my lessons in middle school.
What are your future goals for yourself as a professional in education?
Well, I try to push myself a little bit more every year, and this year I've taken on a lot of new responsibilities as the 6th grade team leader and co-coordinator of Oveus and some other things, but ultimately I aspire to be an administrator, and I plan on starting my program this summer.
So what is an issue or a misconception in education that you wish that you could clear up for the public?
Well, I think there's a lot of misconceptions, but one thing that comes to mind is that the education profession encompasses so much more than just teaching. I mean, we are a counselor, we are an advocate, we're a disciplinarian, a comedian, and sometimes we even take on the role of parents. And I think that a good educator bridges the gap between school and home, and then also we are preparing them to be functioning members of a global society.
That's all for this edition of Be the Difference West Virginia. Join me next time as we learn more about the teachers here in beautiful Berkeley County. Until then, I'm Erin Spinagle, reminding you to be different, but more importantly, be the difference. I'll see you soon.